بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Assalamu alaikum, dear Professor Alwani, and thank you very much again for being with us and taking time for this interview. For our Nafisa website, we are always searching for role models, both in history and in present age, and we found you. And we're very happy that you are willing to answer us some questions and give advice and share your experience.
Thank you.
So you are now a professor at Howard University. Also, you have the chair for the Master Program of Religious Studies at Howard University. And at the same time, you are the Vice President of the Fiqh Council of North America. And beside that, you are involved in a number of projects and initiatives. So how did you achieve these positions? And what were your experience in academia as well as Muslim scholarship as a woman?
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. First of all, really is the scholarship. I was raised in a family full of scholars from my father and my uncle. And that instilled in me love of learning and seeking knowledge in every aspect. And specifically, I think with the Islamic education and studies. And the other thing I think before I get to academia is also that kind of knowledge that it's based on, and that's why it's very important for the family to instill this in their children. It was based on critical thinking. It's not only you love Islam, you love your religion, you love the Quran, and they teach you how to memorize the Quran and study it. But at the same time, when the father or uncle, they always ask you difficult questions, and it's guiding you how to reflect and contemplate the Quran. It's not only to memorize it, and but in this, that makes you with that critical thinking and critical mind to question many things. And then the Quran itself, of course, encourages you also to ask questions. And I guess that was the beginning of that journey. There's another also point which is also important. So many times for us today, we're very systematic. That knowledge, it comes only while you are in college or you're in university or something and in certain program. For me, I had a very unique experience because I used to live in Iraq, of course in Saudis, and then I moved to Iraq during the time of war, the war between Iraq and Iran. And suddenly, after I started my degree in Saudi to finish Sharia studies, I went to Iraq, and I found myself that I cannot travel and to continue and finish my studies. But at that time, with the encouragement of my father and myself, he said, but it's okay, because knowledge is not restricted with the physical university. You can learn anywhere while you are at home. So I started reading different books and classical books about philosophy, usul al-fiqh, and tafsir, and I memorized a good portion of Bukhari and Muslim. But at the same time, I had also some of the scholars to go and also discuss with them. So that I think portion was very important in my own studies and also my forming my scholarship. So after that, of course, I just continued and I studied, and I found myself with academia ready for that journey. And that journey, it's really specifically to be in non-Muslim institutions. And I started that with the Johns Hopkins University's SAIS, with the international studies at that time, and and having different conversations and arguments and studies, critical opinions about Islam and Muslims. And also with women, that's another issue with families. So I think I developed that kind of sense that there is integration between different fields. It's not, and that's why I'm for interdisciplinary fields. It's not only one. Because while you are studying about women, you are studying about social issues, psychological and other fields. And also, while you are studying about Islamic law, you are studying about philosophy, about history. So in my courses, all my courses are really, it's more about interdisciplinary fields to come with the role of religion with science, the role of religion with the civilization, role of religions, for example, and social issues. So I think this is part of my work, and now I found myself like I'm academics, I'm a scholar, I'm activist at the same time, and I don't ignore that. No, I have to be just one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
So your biography has in it so a part of studying, being active, and also working. So you're now working as a professor. And a commonly held position amongst Muslims is that women should not work and earn money at all. At the same time, we find a number of examples which defy this arrangement, like the wife of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, Zainab, radiallahu anha, whom you mentioned. So what are your thoughts on this, and how do you make a deal with these aspects?
Thank you. I think also what you're asking about is if you're in a position also between work and family and how you balance this, because this is the question we always ask ourselves. I think I would like even to add one more example from the prophetic time and Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. His wife Zainab also was someone who asked him to. For her, she was a worker, so she used to make her own. It's like clothes or something, and she sell it to help her family. And she asked Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam his permission. Is it okay? And he said, of course. And so she used to someone who used to be the most of among the women to give charity and to help families in Medina. Specific families is just they relied on what her work and what she's doing. So what she was earning distributed among these families. And this is one of the perfect also model for this. So we have to understand that Islam is always about balance. Islam is always about not for men and women, and as we read in the lecture about in Surah Ali Imran and many other surahs about men and women are working towards something. So many things. And in this, I guess, we have to understand this is the mission of men and women on this earth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us different gifts and talents, and we have to use it in different ways. But you have to always think about the goal. What is your goal? The end goal for this. If I'm learning about a specific field because I feel this is my talent and this is my gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I have to think also about the result of this. This is my gift, so how do I really contribute to my family, to my society, to the humanity? And always I have in mind, I'm a universal person. So I not only think about myself or only my family, but also humanity in general. So with this, you always think about working. Even we need as Muslims to define the meaning of work, amal. What does it mean? Because also And we should start with the Quran, because the Quran defined amal in a perfect way. So we need to say الذين آمنوا, even the surah that we recite all the time, والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات. So what is amal? What is وعملوا الصالحات? That's your homework, to trace the Quran and see the word of amal, because it's a concept, right?
It's interesting, yeah.
So from this, so people, if they decide for you or for in general, and they say, okay, women should not be working outside, what does it mean? And you have to, before accept this notion, I have to understand this. What does it mean for me? I was encouraged by, as I said, my family to learn, to study. But if you learn and study, it means you have to teach.
Yes.
Because this is the goal.
Yeah.
The goal is for you to learn, but you teach the others also. And that's very well known. So you are a teacher. If you are a teacher, how do you teach? You can teach at home, of course. That's one option. And you are the first teacher of your children.
Yes.
That's what I did with my children when they were young. I stayed with them, and I will emphasize this. When I say I stayed home with my children, teaching my children, does not mean that I'm just teaching them and waiting, because the concept of stay home is stay home as if it's passive. No, I was very active, because I'm also outside, taking my children outside, teaching them, having them at the library with the other children, taking them to different programs. So that's the meaning, that I'm devoting my time for my children.
Yes.
So that's the meaning. So it means I'm working. So it's not the concept that, oh, you're a stay-at-home mother, it means you're not working. No, I'm working 24 hours. I'm thinking and I'm planning for them. I'm planning their schedule. I'm doing all this. And in fact, during the time of raising my children, I learned about child psychology. I took courses, and not degree, courses. It's just to learn about my children. Is this also part of working? For people, I don't know how they define it. But at the same time, I was also teaching other people. And I was working at colleges, schools, public school in Fairfax in Loudoun County. Also that's work. So how do they, I will ask this question really, how do they define this? And if they ask me about how to balance this, I was very balanced. And I of course, it was not, I was tired at the end of the day, and you're very exhausted, and you say, oh, alhamdulillah, one day is done. But I'm not, I have in mind, my children are my priority in this, but also my work has its own priority. My husband, my parents, I was always, and I always have in mind, I have different roles. I'm an aunt, I'm a friend, I'm a relative, I'm a colleague, I'm this. So I have to also balance between all of them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I guess there's no contradiction.
Thank you.
You mentioned already the balance, and you are married with 4 children.
Yes.
And as you told us recently, your 3rd grandchild was born.
4.
Your
Four,
4th
yeah,
already.
almost,
Okay. So in practical terms, I mean, the day has only 24 hours. So how did you manage, and do you manage still to combine this? The work and your family and the
I use
academic
also-
work, this is also very time consuming.
It is. It is.
So some practical tips for us.
Yes, please.
I think the barakah and the blessing of time after Fajr, so it's very good. So
Mashallah,
and also, as I mentioned, prayer is very important in my life, especially Qiyam al-Layl. I guess it's even a few rakat before Fajr is very important to. They said to gain your energy for that day. but of course, and also the mind is very clear in the morning. So all my writings, readings, reflections, all this, I try to keep it in the morning, and the morning hours are important for me, and that's why I don't have classes to teach during the morning. So I try to teach all my classes afternoon or evening, but at the same time also use technology to contact with my children, my friends. Like I have almost every day, my sons will call me and we have discussions, and sometimes intellectual, sometimes social, it depends. And in this case, they are working, and I'm also, I know everything about them. I also talk to my grandchildren and this. But this is part of the daily life. And then, of course, you have your classes and courses, and the weekend, most of the weekend also, you have many activities, either family with family, or you have the community, because lecturing and travel and all this. So I try always to schedule. Maybe the only sometimes I feel I'm not successful enough to get myself some rest, and that's, I guess it's something I'm working on. But otherwise, really, that's mainly what I try to do, and it's not easy, but I enjoy it. I enjoy this journey, and I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give me the strength and health to deal with all kinds of issues.
Inshallah. So, in 2010, you gave a speech at the Reviving Islamic Spirit Conference and urged women to pursue a path of knowledge. And this is interesting. You said that you didn't want to stay alone on the stage any longer. So this is really interesting. Why is it important to have female religious scholars, and did the situation improve in the last years?
Wow, thank you. Yes, indeed. It's last month, in May, I was also invited to seminars or working in Canada. And the organizers also, they asked me, they said, we are always looking for women to speak or to teach. And we're sure there are so many Muslim women who are capable and qualified to teach about different topics. And I believe we do have scholars, we do have women scholars who are really qualified, at least maybe in fiqh and usul and different. But my experience, and still with this, I guess what we are looking for, like speakers, to be on the stage, to speak to men and women, to address different difficult issues. And this, either you find women as activists, so with limited maybe knowledge about the Islamic sciences, or you have Muslim women who are scholars with the ijazat and studies and all this. And each one, of course, has different limitation. So for the activists, they can be on the stage. They can come with their own also very rich experience, and which is also very useful for the community. But sometimes people are looking for the religious aspect too. And when they ask for the scholars, women scholars, with the intention of knowing about usul, fiqh, tafsir, and all this, our sisters are kind of they're backing from this and saying, no, I will teach only women, and I don't like to be on stage teaching men and women, which is fine. It's no problem. But this is a trend now, and that kind of trend. I'm not here to criticize this, but I'm calling our sisters to really go back to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's sunnah and see the women try to study even that time. What did they used to do? How was part of their spreading knowledge? And for each individual, maybe they have their own goals and ideas, which is good. But also it's important for the community to see more of Muslim women scholars standing there, teaching them. Because as we discussed about different difficult issues in our communities, we need also the wisdom and guidance of women, the voice of women, because it has its own wisdom that it adds to her brother's voice. So we need both. It's not only one voice. And in this case, really, we need maybe to discuss, is it okay for women to stand on stage and teach the community about their religion and about guide them also in a way, or not, and why is not, and what's the problem? Why do we limit ourselves into only? We need both, and I work with both always. I work. So and I think if you were asking me about the improvement, I would say it's not that much. We still, everywhere I go, people, and now the nice thing about it, the organizers, before that they have only one woman, maybe we're good, we're fine. But now really they felt that there is a need to hear and to listen to women's voice and wisdom, because they know it's important for the community. So let us just step in and try to take this and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all our efforts and work.
So for a woman who want to take the path of knowledge and become a religious scholar, what advice can you give? Where to go and whom to ask?
Should we call you?
About the Islamic knowledge? Today it's really, people are confused. And I feel sad to say that, because and that's the problem. It's not only about women, it's about youth, it's about children. We have confusion about so many concepts. The concept of knowledge now is very limited. It's not rich, it's not the knowledge that maybe years ago when people were seeking knowledge, it has different meaning. Today with I think it's from one side of course technology is something, it has positive and negative. It's as everything on this earth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always tells us that there's some negative here, so there's positives. But it's also the same with the information that people now are, I think, bombarded with data, information. Data and information is not knowledge. Knowledge is to use the information and then translate it and try to, after that, make that translation into reality and in theories and practical aspects. So what's going on now, even in our questions, the questions usually in the Quran, the way that it teaches, and even in science, it's half of the answer. When you form your question, that question is very important because the question helps me at least, and now with that question, I know half of the answer of the question because I'm looking for specific things, but at the same time, it's broader thing. Now people, when they ask the questions, it's just to, and this is something also for the scholars to work on. It seems like we raise generations of people who are only thinking about, is this halal or haram?
Yes.
And what does it mean if I ask, is this halal or haram? So if you tell them, okay, it's halal, so it means, okay, I'm fine. So there's no depth. It's very shallow. And we lost this. We lost the concept of looking and understanding what's the objective beyond this. Now, if you ask me about, if I use this whatever website or this things, is it halal? So in this case, if I say, okay, why are you using it? What is the purpose of using it? Where it leads you to what? Positive, negative attitude, improves your thinking or way of thinking on this or not. So we lost all this.
Yes.
So now, even when we ask questions, unfortunately, we need also our scholars to go back and to reshape and rebuild that kind of understanding. We're not looking for celebrity or fame or this. We have to teach our communities and youth and women, men, everyone, is really, let's go as the Quran guides us to contemplate, to have that critical thinking about everything, not only to feel, okay, if I pray, prayer without khushu', prayer without focusing on what we are saying, it becomes empty, and that's why it doesn't reflect on our behaviors and attitudes. So what we are looking for now, it's really to focus and try to contemplate, try to think about the objectives, the ends, the results, and that's what I really call all our scholars, men and women, to go back and try to find a way with our community, not to be shallow and just ask any question and find ready answers. I don't answer any of the questions when I feel that this person is just looking for permission and then will add to me and say, oh, Sheikh Fulan says this or Sheikh Fulan says that, and that's it, I'm free now. I don't have responsibility. No, you do have responsibility, because that's what it was during the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that women who stood against Umar when he said something about mahar, and she said, where do you find this, Umar? And she called him in this, and then she mentioned the ayah in Surah An-Nisa, and Umar himself, he said, صدقت المرأة وأخطأ Umar. You see, and that's what we need to build our community, to correct us, to remind us that we need to have that depth of knowledge, not only to answer in a shallow way.
Thank you very much. A very nice closing remark.
Yes.
We have to end now, so all the best for your work and
Jazakallah.
have a
Thank
safe
you.
trip home.
Thank you very much. Thank
And
you for the
inshallah we meet
invitation.
sometime soon.
Inshallah.
Somewhere, inshallah.
Jazakumullah khair.
Salam.
Wa
Salam
alaikum assalam.
يا رحمن يا رحيم يا